13, 5 o'clock news.
Out there made it clear they strongly support the American Rescue Plan.
Marking a year of loss and disruption, President Biden puts pen to paper and officially signs a COVID relief plan.
The city has no authority to require any of these businesses to close in the future or to have closed in the past.
They've struggled to follow the rules. Now the state's giving them a break, but waiving fines for businesses that break COVID regulations may be rubbing some the wrong way.
Jesse Madsen, to put it quite bluntly, he was a badass.
And new details about a fallen officer's heroic actions and the driver accused in his death. Good afternoon. I'm Cynthia Smoot.
And I'm Linda Hurtado. Thanks so much for joining us. Across the country and around the world, ceremonies and vigils are being held to mark 1 year since the coronavirus outbreak was declared a pandemic. It was exactly 365 days ago today the World Health Organization made the announcement that would change all of our lives. But that's not how the day started. Instead, we woke up to a much different headline.
Do you regret your actions, Mr. Weinstein? Are you worried about the verdict, Mr. Weinstein?
March 11th, 2020, 11 a.m. A New York judge announced media mogul Harvey Weinstein would spend the rest of his life in prison. His sentence was supposed to be the big story of the day. Then, just over an hour later, an even bigger announcement.
We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
By that afternoon, offices were telling employees to pack up. They were working from home. By 4:30, the Dow plummeted, losing 10% of its value. And by that evening, New York canceled its big St. Patrick's Day parade. And breaking tonight, the NBA is suspending the season after a Utah Jazz player has tested positive for COVID-19.
The game tonight has been postponed. You are all safe.
By 7 o'clock, just as the Oklahoma City Thunder were getting ready to tip off against the Utah Jazz, the NBA canceled the game and eventually suspended the season. And by 9 p.m., the president was sitting in the Oval Office to address the nation.
And we are marshaling the full power of the federal government and the private sector to protect the American people.
It was just minutes later, Hollywood power couple Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson revealed they had tested positive for COVID. By late evening, the first case was diagnosed on Capitol Hill. And by 11 p.m., the virus continues to spread worldwide. While some countries begin to rebound, others are seeing the deadly effects. We ended the day realizing we were in a full-fledged pandemic. 2.6 million lives have been lost globally since the start of the outbreak. 118 million have been diagnosed, but now we have entered the next phase in this fight. Earlier today, President Biden signed into law his $1.9 trillion relief package.
He says it's designed to help the U.S. defeat the virus and nurse the economy back to health.
This historic legislation is about rebuilding the backbone of this country and giving people in this nation, working people, middle-class folks, people who built the country, a fighting chance.
We'll have more on the bill a little later, but tonight the president will hold his first primetime address since taking office. He'll look back at the past year, what we've lost, how we've changed, and most importantly, what comes next. You can catch his address right here on Fox 13 at 8 o'clock, or if you're away from the TV, you can watch our live stream on fox13news.com, also on our Facebook page and Fox 13 mobile app as well.
Here in Florida, the vaccine supply is flowing and the pharmacy footprint is growing. The governor was in Jacksonville today to announce more Walgreens will be providing shots. Nearly 100 stores statewide will participate. That's about 3 dozen in the Tampa Bay area. The expansion will likely make it easier for people to get vaccinated. People 60 to 64 can start signing up for appointments on Monday. And according to the governor, Florida may be in a position to lower the eligibility group even further.
We have some encouraging signals about the supply, both in terms of what the state is getting allocated, but also through the federal pharmacy program. So rest assured, if you're in that 55 to 59 age bracket, we want to lower that very soon as well. We may be able to do that quicker than initially anticipated.
What's more encouraging, the governor says if the supply continues to grow, Florida could have enough vaccine to cover every adult by April.
The governor also issued his latest executive order, which cancels all COVID-related fines on businesses. And that comes after several bars and clubs had their alcohol permits temporarily suspended after they got multiple fines. Fox 13's Aaron Mesmer live at Ybor. That's where a number of those places were located. So what does it mean now going forward, Aaron?
Cynthia, let's start with what's made clear in this executive order. From March 1st of last year through yesterday, any fine received by a bar or a club related to COVID-19 regulation violations has been waived, has been canceled at this point. But what's less clear is how that impacts alcohol permit suspensions.
Well, I just think that those fines are out of control, and we want to make sure that folks are protected.
Governor Ron DeSantis says the burden on businesses to enforce COVID-19 safety regulations is unfair. And in a statement to Fox 13, St. Pete Mayor Rick Kreisman says, quote, it is worth noting that local actions and protocols have helped keep Floridians safe and healthy, and Ron DeSantis has benefited from that. Time and again, in the absence of state leadership and a coherent strategy, cities like St. Petersburg have had to take the lead. We also received a response late today from Tampa Mayor Jane Castor's office, and basically what she said is she does not believe that this executive order cancels out those alcohol permit suspensions. Further, several businesses have already served their permit suspensions. So what Attorney Leroux, who you saw in that story there, what he told me is that some of those businesses may consider suing the city to recover what they believe is lost revenue as a result of what they feel are unfair suspensions. Cynthia?
Wow, this could turn into a big old thing then. Thank you, Aaron Mesmer.
Yeah.
He hit speeds over 100 miles an hour and may have been drinking. Those are some of the new details the Tampa police chief revealed today about the suspected wrong-way driver who killed Officer Jesse Madsen. Madsen is being called a hero for intentionally putting himself in harm's way to stop that driver. Fox 13's Josh Cassio is live at Tampa Police Headquarters. Josh, what else are we learning?
Yeah, one of the other new revelations today was that wrong-way driver, Joshua Montague. He was actually here in Tampa because he was moving to Tampa. He had only been here, though, less than 12 hours before that crash happened. The chief also saying he appears to have been intoxicated at the time. Josh, back to you.
It's going to be an emotional evening. Thank you, Josh. Yeah.
Coming up, the bill is now a law meant to help individuals, but how will Florida benefit from that COVID relief plan? How much the state's getting and where it's all going? That's ahead at 5:30. But first,
I was so disappointed and disillusioned. You know, it's like, why already?
Just days before vaccines open up to a younger crowd, frustration is at its highest for some of Florida's eldest. The advice for them as they struggle to make an appointment. Next. We've heard the governor say demand on vaccine registration sites has softened. But we're also hearing from seniors who say they've been trying 4 months and can't get an appointment. It's even more concerning for them now that eligibility is about to open to a younger crowd. Fox 13's Jennifer Holton spoke with a state official about the issue, and she joins us live from the FEMA site in Tampa. Boy, Jen, I hope we have some answers here for people like Dorothy, who we heard from at 4 o'clock today.
Yeah, you know, I got to tell you, Linda, there's been many success stories of people 65 and older who have gotten their vaccine appointments. But then there are people like Dorothy, who I spoke with for quite some time today. She's 72 years old. She says she has tried to get on every single list she could possibly think of at this point, and she hasn't had much luck. And again, we of course have the information on the location of those sites up on our website. Linda, back to you.
And 45 minutes, not too long to wait if you've been trying all this time to get an appointment. Thanks, Jennifer. And if you do have access to the internet, as Jen mentioned, you can always go to fox13news.com. We have a full list of the vaccine site locations and registration websites for every county in our viewing area.
And the weather's not too bad for waiting right now either.
Yeah.
You know?
Just be outside, you know. Always think about those long lines we show during the holidays at Best Buy. This would be a good time to wait in line for a while.
Right.
Yeah, we're doing good. Sunshine prevails. We're going to, pretty soon, we'll start talking about, boy, the weather's great, but we need some rain. Until then, a whole bunch of 82s and a whole bunch of sunny symbols on the 7-day forecast. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Paul. And right there in Paul's forecast, you see it. We spring forward this weekend. And if 2 Florida senators get their way, we won't touch our clocks again, ever. Up next, the renewed push to make daylight saving time permanent. So it is that time of year again, daylight saving time. This Sunday, 2 a.m., we spring forward, losing that hour of sleep. But if it was up to a few Florida lawmakers, this will be the last time we ever touch our clocks. Our consumer reporter, Sabani Banerjee, is joining us now with this daylight saving debate that seems to go on and on and on. We're always talking about it this time of year. And there are people who say it would save us time, stress, money, all those things.
Yeah, it's happening again. Here we go with this debate. There's a group of bipartisan senators who have introduced a bill to make daylight saving time year-round. Dubbed the Sunshine Protection Act of 2021, it would negate standard time, which lasts between November and March. So that means we would no longer fall back an hour. Florida Senator Marco Rubio once again pushing it, along with Senator Rick Scott.
So why does it keep coming up?
You know, the reasoning behind it, Cynthia, the senators say it's just time to stop what they're calling biannual disruptions because our lifestyles are just so different than when this all began more than a century ago. In a fact sheet outlining the effects, Senator Rubio noted that it was first enacted in the U.S. over Germany's efforts to conserve fuel during World War I in 1916. Senator Rubio said in a press release that studies have shown benefits of a year-round daylight saving time, which is why Florida lawmakers actually voted to make it permanent in 2018, but it doesn't work if only one state decides.
Right. So are there anything specific they always say?
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with health and safety. That's what they're making their pitch with. But they also claim that it'll save money for consumers as well. For instance, they say that there would be fewer car crashes and pedestrian accidents because of better visibility, less cardiac issues, strokes, and seasonal disorders, even less childhood obesity because more daylight would mean more time for physical activities. They say it could reduce robberies, energy usage, and there would be agricultural benefits since these changes would no longer disrupt the supply chain. They even say that this could have us seeing a little bit of an economic boost since there tends to be a 2 to 5% drop when the clocks move backwards.
That's kind
there
of interesting.
You go. They're making a case.
Yeah, I know. I always do wonder, though, about when we head into the winter again, how dark it's going to be for the kids in the morning, because some of these kids go to school so early now.
Right.
You know, so, you know, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But anyhow, thanks for the update, Sorbani. And still ahead, our next half hour, breaking his silence, Prince William opening up just a little bit about his brother's interview, the one that had the whole world talking. And a new charge against a former officer at the center of George Floyd's death, and why it could be good news for those who want to see a conviction. We'll be right back. So earlier this hour, we watched as President Biden signed his $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill. It's the nation's third rescue package in this past year. Not only does it extend unemployment benefits and provide checks to individuals, that bill will also send $350 billion to states.
And tonight we're learning just how much Florida will get and how state leaders plan to spend it. Our political editor, Craig Patrick, is here with those details for us. Hi, Craig.
Hi there, Linda. The initial estimate showed Florida getting $19 billion, give or take. The updated numbers show Florida will be getting right around $17 billion in total for state and local governments. And with that, yes, it'll be spread between the state government and cities and counties across Florida.
Of $17 billion federal dollars heading to Florida, $10.2 billion will go to our state government and the rest.
But there are, of course, competing agendas in Tallahassee. There's also a push, for example, to use federal money to shore up the Sadowski Trust Funds, which help fund affordable housing programs across Florida, which the state legislature has raided for years and years. What better a way, proponents say, to help people recover and rebuild from the pandemic than to fund affordable housing at the levels by law it's supposed to be funded. Those are examples of some of the priorities that state lawmakers are pushing at this point. They will have a great deal of latitude in how they spend this federal money, but there are guardrails, and we're going to find out, and they will find out the specific federal guidelines, the ground rules as they were, in the coming days and weeks.
So the governor says he's against any cuts to K through 12 education. So could this federal money be used for schools?
Yes. Now, separate from the money going to the states, the $350 billion, there's a separate $126 billion allocated specifically for schools. It's using a Title I formula, meaning that schools and communities with higher levels of poverty will get more of those funds. But separate from that, yes, there is the possibility that the state can use money to shore up schools, as can conceivably some counties or local governments. But again, it comes down to the specific rules. And one of the issues that Florida is dealing with is that funding for education is based on enrollment. And during the pandemic, for whatever reason, enrollment dropped. Some students just didn't show up. And so the governor is saying he does not want school funding cut because of that. That's where this could help fill in that gap.
All right. Good information. Thank you, Craig Patrick.
Some of the other headlines we're following for you today. Just 15 years old and charged with murder. Hunter Eargood was arrested after Hillsborough deputies say he stabbed to death a man. It happened overnight on Honeywell Road in Gibsonton. Deputies say that Eargood and the victim knew each other, but that the crime was not domestic in nature. The details of what led up to the whole thing haven't been released. A judge in Polk County has decided that a former Lakeland City Commissioner will go to trial. Michael Dunn is charged with second-degree murder for what happened more than 2 years ago at Vet Surplus store in Lakeland. Detectives say a homeless man tried to steal a hatchet and was caught during an altercation. They say that Dunn grabbed the man's shirt and shot him. Dunn's attorneys used the stand your ground defense to potentially get the case dropped, but were unsuccessful.
Well, now to Minneapolis, where prosecutors today added a third-degree murder charge against Derek Chauvin, the former police officer accused of killing George Floyd. Chauvin was already charged with second-degree murder and manslaughter. His attorney tried to get the appellate courts to block the new charge, but a judge today reinstated it. And this gives jurors one more option to convict Chauvin of murder. Jury selection is still underway. 6 jurors have been seated so far, 5 men and 1 woman.
New developments following the bombshell royal interview with Oprah Winfrey. For the first time, Prince William is responding to the accusations made by his brother Harry and sister-in-law Meghan. During a visit to an East London school with his wife, Kate Middleton, William responded to a reporter's question in light of the conversation about Archie's skin tone. William said, quote, "We're very much not a racist family." He also said he hasn't spoken with his brother since the interview aired, but promises to do so.
Sir, have you spoken to your brother since the interview?
No, I haven't spoken yet, but I will do.
And can you just let me know, is the royal family a racist family, sir?
No, we're very much not a racist family.
Queen Elizabeth is expected to personally reach out to Harry and Meghan to discuss the fallout. Buckingham Palace released a statement earlier this week saying the matter would be taken very seriously and handled privately.
Well, coming up, she became the face of the medical community fighting the outbreak.
We are revisiting this Tampa doctor a year into the pandemic, what she says the future holds, and why she's staying hopeful.
And as we head to break, the president's signing of the COVID relief bill sent stocks soaring. The Dow and S&P both hit record highs. The Dow gained 188 points, the Nasdaq jumped 329, and the S&P added 40. In the age of COVID, getting back to normal means creating herd immunity, and the vaccine is the way to do that. Governor DeSantis is expanding who is eligible to get these shots, and efforts are working here in Tampa Bay thanks to the work of a local epidemiologist. We turned to her for answers in the early days when so little was known about the coronavirus. Now, as our Laura Moody shows us, the world turns to her as well.
We first met Dr. Sita Lakshmi 1 year ago, almost to the day.
So I think all hands are on deck and all options are on the table, really.
She'd be our last live guest in studio. No part of medical school prepared her for the media wave that began that day as she became the face of the medical community fighting the outbreak.
That first time, it felt like, something big is going to happen. And it's just the beginning of that journey.
And that's exactly how she sees it, a journey. Dr. Lakshmi says this pandemic is shifting the course of humanity.
That's, I think, part of the thing that I've learned is change. And all of us have had to change in all aspects, on the family front, the work front. And when we study pandemics, people do this is fun fact, right? When we study pandemics like the flu, the Great Plague, it changes the genetics of human beings who get left behind. It changes art. It changes culture.
So when will we be able to get back to our lives? That's the million-dollar question even Lakshmi wants the answer to.
There are so many moving parts. I do have to say that we are in a much better place than where we started out. If we can get vaccinated to the extent that we need to be, you know, the number 60, 70%, you know, it will really make change in the quality of life.
We're not even close to that. And if variants like the UK variant become more contagious, it jeopardizes any hope of success. So doctors around the world are tuning in to what's going on at Tampa General Hospital, where a converted wing became the global hub for COVID research and training. Lakshmi is the medical director of the Global Emerging Diseases Institute, which they lovingly call the JEDI.
May the force be with you.
And the JEDI is putting Tampa on the map.
In some ways, I felt like I was fulfilling my destiny. And when we started it, it was all so scary and new. But then you make your friends, your colleagues, your team, and the courage they have, it just inspires you. The people, the program, the leadership, everything came together. Our outcomes are top 20 in the country.
But there is still a long way to go. Trust in the vaccine is the biggest hurdle, she says. Without that, the journey will be long. But the world is starting to open its doors again, and there is hope.
It's nice to see that our numbers are coming down. We are planning for a post-pandemic future. And in many ways, the lessons we have learned, we want to pass it on to the future generations and leave something behind that is meaningful and will be safer for the future. We look back at these times when we grow older and remember them as a time that brought us together, moved the communities forward. And the vision of what we have created at JEDI, the Global Emerging Disease Institute, is the essence of that we thrived and survived in a crisis.
Other disease experts agree with the doctor that we need to have 60 to 70% of the country vaccinated to reach herd immunity. Right now, we are only at 9%, so we still have a ways to go.
Yeah, not only that, Linda, but I was listening last night to something about that the world needs this vaccine because you're still going to have those variants arising as long as it's still out there and spreading.
People start traveling again and passing the variant on to others. Hey, Scott, let's talk a little March Madness, maybe?
Let's jump into sports. Yeah, for sure. College basketball conference tournaments in full swing. So we have a bunch of our in-state teams playing today. Why was everyone playing except FSU? And if today was any indication, Rays pitcher Tyler Glasnow looks ready to fully embrace the role of ace. The mini horse was in full gallop mode today. Highlights next in sports.
Wow, they're beautiful creatures, aren't they? Well, these bald eagles in Southern California are starring in their own reality show of sorts. Cameras set up near their nest in a pine tree at Big Bear Lake are following their every move and listening to their every screech. And check out the snowstorm that they have going on. This couple has been caring for their 2 eggs for several weeks now. Ooh, it is definitely windy. Mom and Dad take turns keeping those eggs warm as they develop. Wildlife experts think the eggs will hatch on Monday.
Wow, isn't it amazing they can be that precise with the hatching? And you'd be making that noise too if it was that cold. Look at that.
Yes, I would actually.
That looks pretty darn cold, Paul. I have to
it
say.
is. That's in Southern California. I gotta find the link to that. Did we post it online? Is it a live? It's just a nonstop live webcam.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think they're streaming it. Yeah, I think
I'm
so.
gonna watch it in between weather hits.
That's a good one there,
If you need me, that's all I'll be watching this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the big storm. I mean, there's a snow outside of California, and then, we're looking at some of the stuff out west really in awe because Denver could get up to almost 2.5 feet of snow.
Wow.
Biggest snowstorm in, I think, 18 years. That's a big deal. So the flip for them, and the general weather 101 rule is when you get cold and rain and snow out west, it's usually nice in the east. You really can't say the weather is March Madness. It's pretty quiet, but we know it's going on right now, Scott. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah, good stuff indoors. On the hardwood today, we've seen COVID-caused cancellations throughout the college basketball regular season. But when it happens in March, well, it can end a team's season. Yet the offense didn't do much today, so the Braves go on to win this one 2-0. But that is, of course, the beauty of spring training, that we don't care what the final score is.
No,
we
we don't. We just like
look
to
at
see
the individual performance.
Yeah, we like to see great pitching
Exactly.
like that, too. That's for sure. We'll be right back.
It's good stuff.